Mariah's Secret, a hidden betrayal and the truth unveiled as the drama unfolds on The Young and the Restless. One of the most riveting storylines of the season involves Mariah Copeland and her complex relationship with Tessa Porter. Fans have been left in suspense, piecing together the fragments of information that hint at a devastating secret Mariah is hiding. What exactly transpired during her recent trip? What is she concealing from Tessa, and more importantly, why? These questions have been simmering beneath the surface, building anticipation and creating an emotional roller coaster that no viewer can ignore. The week's episode started with an undeniable tension as Mariah returned from her business trip, visibly shaken by something that seemed to haunt her. From the moment she returned to Genoa City, her interactions with Tessa were distant, and there was an unsettling sense that something significant had changed. For fans who have been following the relationship between Mariah and Tessa, this shift in behavior was not only noticeable but also deeply troubling. What could possibly have happened to put such a strain on their connection? The shock and confession Mariah's decision to confide in her mother, Sharon Newman, on May 2nd only deepened the mystery surrounding her secret. The scene at Crimson Lights, a familiar and comforting setting for the Newman family, began innocently enough with the two women having coffee. Yet, beneath the surface, there was a palpable tension. Sharon, who has always been a steady figure for her daughter, quickly recognized that something was amiss. Mariah, despite her usual openness with her mother, was holding back something crucial. As they sat together, Mariah spoke about her recent trip with a certain detached sadness. Sharon, who was preparing for her own journey to Europe with Nick, listened attentively. But it was clear that Mariah wasn't simply recounting a mundane work trip, her words were heavy with unresolved emotions. She began by describing the solitude she felt while staying in her hotel room. Alone with her thoughts, she couldn't escape the memories of her tumultuous childhood, particularly the chaos brought on by her father, Ian. Ian's return to Genoa City had sent shockwaves through her life, and although she had spent years trying to make sense of his actions and the pain they caused, it was clear that some wounds never healed. What seemed like a routine reflection on her past turned darker when Mariah admitted that she had struggled to cope with everything, leading her to drink excessively that night. This was a side of Mariah we hadn't seen before. Vulnerable, emotionally raw, and desperately trying to escape her own demons. However, what stood out most was not the admission of drinking, but her insistence that she did not want Tessa to find out about what happened. The betrayal. It is in this moment that Mariah's secret begins to take shape. What could she have done during her trip that was so grave, so damaging, that she felt it necessary to keep it from Tessa? The answer, though still hidden, seems to point toward a betrayal. But whose betrayal is it? Fans have been speculating for weeks, and the possibility that Mariah might have crossed a line with someone else during her trip is becoming more likely. The idea that Mariah, a character known for her depth and integrity, could hurt Tessa is hard to fathom, but the evidence is mounting. Was she involved with someone else, or perhaps did she act out of desperation, seeking solace in someone who wasn't Tessa? The way she danced around the details and refused to divulge more to Sharon only adds to the mystery. However, it's clear that Mariah's actions during that trip have put her relationship with Tessa in jeopardy. The trust that once bound them together is now under threat. And perhaps more importantly, Mariah's inner conflict is tearing her apart. She is not the same person who left Genoa City, something has fundamentally shifted within her. Her guilt is evident, and the fear of losing Tessa is overshadowing everything else. Sharon's concerned Sharon, ever the protective mother, immediately recognized that there was more to Mariah's story than what she was letting on. While Sharon may not know the full extent of what happened, her concern for her daughter is evident. Sharon's own experiences with pain, loss, and the complexity of relationships have given her a deep empathy for Mariah, and she is determined to help her through whatever it is that she's hiding. However, the real challenge will come when Mariah is forced to confront the consequences of her actions. The truth is inevitable, and as the weeks go on, it seems likely that Tessa will eventually find out what happened. Whether Mariah can regain Tessa's trust or whether this secret will destroy their relationship remains to be seen. The emotional stakes are incredibly high, And the fallout from this betrayal could affect more than just Mariah and Tessa, it could shake the foundations of the entire Newman family. What's next? As Mariah continues to struggle with her guilt and the need to keep her secret, it is only a matter of time before the truth comes to light. Will Tessa forgive her? Or will this betrayal be too much for their relationship to overcome? What does this mean for Mariah's future? Will she continue to hold on to her secret, or will she be forced to confront it head-on, knowing that honesty might be the only way to heal? For now, all fans can do is wait, but one thing is for sure, this storyline is far from over. The emotional journey that Mariah is about to embark on will be one of the most challenging and transformative of her life, and the repercussions will be felt across Genoa City. In the end, The Young and the Restless has masterfully created a storyline that touches on themes of trust, betrayal, and the complexities of human relationships, leaving viewers at the edge of their seats, eagerly anticipating the next chapter in Mariah's tumultuous journey. Mariah's dark secret. Guilt, betrayal, and a shocking twist in the world of The Young and the Restless. Secrets and lies are as common as coffee at Crimson Lights, but the unfolding mystery surrounding Mariah Copeland's recent business trip has captivated viewers in a way few storylines have. While it initially seemed like just another chapter in Mariah's life, her actions have led to a potential betrayal that may not only destroy her relationship with Tessa but also raise much darker and more unsettling questions. Could Mariah have crossed a line so severe that she's not just hiding infidelity, but possibly even something far worse? The guilt that consumes Mariah. Fans of YNR know that Mariah has always been a character defined by her openness and her vulnerability. She has had her fair share of struggles, from growing up in the shadow of her unstable father, Ian, to dealing with the emotional fallout of her troubled past. However, as her relationship with Tessa deepened, it seemed that Mariah had found some semblance of stability and happiness. She had been open about her past, shared her fears, and worked through many of her emotional scars. But something changed when Mariah went on her recent work trip. Her demeanor upon returning was far from the carefree, confident woman we've come to know. Instead, she seemed withdrawn, distant, and anxious. Most alarmingly, her interactions with Tessa became strained, and there was an undeniable tension hanging in the air. Something had happened during that trip, something that Mariah wasn't ready to share with anyone, especially not Tessa. What had she done, and why was she hiding it from the one person she loved most? The guilt that Mariah feels is evident, but it's more than just typical guilt over an affair or a small transgression. The fact that she is unwilling to even confide in Sharon, her supportive mother, suggests the gravity of the situation. When Mariah sits down with Sharon at Crimson Lights to have what should be a casual coffee and chat, the tension is palpable. Sharon, sensing that something is wrong, listens carefully, but Mariah's reluctance to open up is telling. She only offers small pieces of the puzzle, vague admissions of pain, of drinking, of being alone in her hotel room. But she stops short of saying anything specific about what occurred. Mariah's mysterious night, what really happened? The question on everyone's mind is simple yet profound. What did Mariah do on that trip that is so unforgivable, so catastrophic, that she cannot even bring herself to tell her own mother? The speculation runs wild among fans. Was Mariah unfaithful to Tessa? It's certainly possible, though Mariah is the last person we would expect to make such a decision. The complexity of her feelings for Tessa, her love for her, has always been clear. But Mariah's deep sense of guilt suggests something far more troubling. Could Mariah have slept with someone else during her trip, whether someone she knew or a stranger she met while away? If so, it would explain her sense of utter remorse. But this doesn't account for why she is so desperate to keep it a secret, even from Sharon, who has seen her daughter through countless emotional storms. Sharon is not one to judge Mariah for mistakes or for straying in a relationship, given her own history of complex romantic entanglements. Yet, despite Sharon's lack of judgment, Mariah cannot bring herself to tell her the truth. This feeling of isolation and guilt speaks to something much deeper. There's also the possibility that Mariah's actions went beyond infidelity, that in a moment of overwhelming emotional turmoil, she crossed a line that cannot be easily undone. Could she have unintentionally hurt someone, or even worse, killed them? While this idea may sound extreme, the way Mariah is acting certainly raises the possibility. If Mariah's guilt stems not just from a fleeting moment of infidelity, but from a tragic and irreversible consequence of her actions, it would explain why she is avoiding the truth. Could Mariah have accidentally caused someone's death? Did an argument escalate to violence? Perhaps she did something while intoxicated that led to someone's demise, something she's now struggling to live with. If this is the case, it would explain her reluctance to share what happened, even with her mother. The weight of such a secret would be unbearable, and Mariah's need to protect Tessa from the truth, or from the fallout of what she did, could be the reason why she remains silent. Mariah's desperate desire to protect Tessa. Mariah's relationship with Tessa has been one of the few constants in her life, and the thought of losing it, especially over something she may have done on impulse or in a moment of weakness, seems to be tearing her apart. If Mariah did something unforgivable during her trip, it's clear that she feels a deep shame, a shame so consuming that it affects her ability to even look Tessa in the eye, let alone confess. The fear of losing Tessa, of losing the one thing that has brought her peace, drives Mariah to hide the truth at all costs. She doesn't want Tessa to think she's capable of something so cruel or thoughtless. Her love for Tessa is genuine, and the thought of their relationship shattering because of her own actions is more than Mariah can bear. This is why, perhaps, she would rather carry the burden of guilt herself than expose Tessa to the painful truth. The guilt weighs on Mariah not just because she has broken Tessa's trust, but because she sees the deep emotional cost of what she has done. Tessa's heart has always been open to Mariah, and the thought of breaking that bond is the ultimate punishment. Mariah doesn't just fear Tessa's reaction, she fears losing the only person who has truly seen her, understood her, and accepted her for who she is. The possibility of murder. A shocking twist. While it's a shocking thought, the idea that Mariah could have killed someone during her trip isn't completely out of the realm of possibility. If the situation unfolded in a way where Mariah was pushed to her limits, emotionally or physically, it could explain why she would act in such a desperate, extreme way. Perhaps she found herself in a violent altercation with someone she knew or someone she met, and things escalated to a point where she couldn't control the outcome. The idea of Mariah being capable of such an act is hard to swallow, given her character's history. She's been portrayed as thoughtful, empathetic, and caring, someone who would never intentionally harm another person. However, the darkness of her past, the trauma from growing up with Ian, the emotional scars of feeling abandoned and unloved, could provide the background for why she might act in such a reckless and destructive way. Could Mariah's guilt stem from the aftermath of an accidental death, a tragic mistake she's now forced to live with? Could she have pushed someone too far, resulting in harm or even death? This dark twist would not only explain her silence, but also her overwhelming guilt and the emotional distance she's created between herself and Tessa. If Mariah was involved in a fatal event during her trip, it would explain why she feels she cannot share the truth with anyone, especially not Tessa. Conclusion: what comes next? As Mariah's dark secret continues to unfold, the tension surrounding her character grows with each passing episode. The stakes are high, and the consequences of her actions, whether it's infidelity, an accidental death, or something even more sinister, are becoming more apparent. Her relationship with Tessa is on the brink, and the emotional fallout is inevitable. But the question remains: will Mariah be able to confess her sins before it's too late, or will she continue to carry the burden of guilt, alone and afraid of losing everything she holds dear? One thing is clear: the truth, no matter how painful, will eventually come to light. Whether Mariah can rebuild her life, her relationship, and her peace of mind remains to be seen, but for now, the young and the restless fans are on the edge of their seats, waiting for the next shocking chapter in this heartbreaking story. In the turbulent world of the young and the restless, the line between love and destruction is often perilously thin, and Mariah Copeland is about to find this out the hard way. As the intense drama surrounding her relationship with Tessa Porter continues to unfold, viewers are left questioning just how far Mariah's actions have pushed her and whether she has crossed an unthinkable line. Could Mariah have done something so terrible that she feels incapable of telling the truth, even to her own mother, Sharon Newman? Could the simmering jealousy that has been growing between Mariah and Tessa finally push one of them to do something truly devastating? A relationship shaken by jealousy. Jealousy is a powerful emotion. It can cloud judgment, stir irrational behavior, and often lead to decisions that one might later regret. This is especially true when the relationship in question is as emotionally charged as the one between Mariah and Tessa. For Mariah, who has always been deeply committed to Tessa, her growing feelings of insecurity and jealousy have been brewing for some time, and her recent business trip seems to have brought these emotions to a boiling point. From the outside, Mariah's and Tessa's relationship appeared solid. They had faced challenges together, including Mariah's troubled past and Tessa's own emotional baggage. Yet, the dynamics between them began to shift when Mariah went away for her business trip. Something happened on that trip, something so significant that Mariah feels the need to keep it a secret. Could her actions be tied to jealousy, the driving force behind many rash decisions? Did Mariah act out of spite or insecurity, believing that Tessa might have betrayed her trust or that someone else posed a threat to their bond? As Mariah returned from her trip, her behavior was noticeably different. Her interactions with Tessa were tense, distant, and her reluctance to talk about what had transpired was palpable. The once vibrant and confident woman now seemed fraught with guilt and fear. It was clear that something had happened during that trip, but what exactly? Was Mariah's jealousy driving her to the brink, or was there a much darker secret she was hiding? A secret so dark, could Mariah have crossed a line? The question hanging over the storyline is one that is difficult to imagine. Could Mariah have done something so terrible, something that would haunt her for the rest of her life? As fans continue to speculate about her actions, a disturbing possibility has emerged. Could Mariah have hurt someone during her trip, perhaps even taken someone's life? At first, the idea seems far-fetched. Mariah has always been portrayed as a character who is kind, thoughtful, and deeply loving. The thought that she could kill someone seems almost impossible to believe. But the more we see her struggle with guilt and fear, the more plausible it becomes. Something significant happened during her trip. Something that caused her to hide the truth from everyone, including her own mother. The notion that Mariah could have accidentally hurt someone, or worse, taken a life, raises the stakes in this storyline to a whole new level. Could she have been pushed into a violent situation while away? Could an argument or a moment of emotional turmoil have escalated to a tragic point where Mariah, in her desperation, crossed a line she never thought she would? If Mariah did cause harm to someone, whether intentionally or accidentally, it would explain her overwhelming guilt and her inability to speak about it. She knows that such an act could irrevocably damage her relationship with Tessa, perhaps beyond repair. The weight of guilt. Why Mariah can't tell Sharon. One of the most telling aspects of Mariah's behavior is her refusal to tell her mother, Sharon, the truth. Sharon, who has always been a source of comfort and understanding for Mariah, would likely offer support and advice, just as she always has. But Mariah's guilt is so heavy, so consuming, that she cannot even bring herself to confide in Sharon, someone she trusts implicitly. What could be so terrible that she cannot share it with her mother? If Mariah were simply guilty of infidelity, that might explain her shame and reluctance to speak out. After all, cheating is a difficult thing to confess, even to someone as non-judgmental as Sharon. But the fact that Mariah's guilt runs so deep suggests that what she did goes far beyond a simple betrayal of trust. The idea that she could have committed a much more serious act, perhaps even a violent one, is far more plausible when considering her hesitation to speak to Sharon. Could Mariah have hurt someone so badly that the thought of sharing the truth is unbearable? Could she have crossed a line into something much darker, something that she fears could tear her family apart? The weight of her actions is clearly too much for her to bear, and it's likely that she is hiding not just from Tessa but from the entire world. The fear of judgment, the fear of losing everything she has worked so hard to build, is driving her into isolation. Mariah's desperate need to protect Tessa despite everything. There is one thing that is clear: Mariah still loves Tessa. The bond they share is something that Mariah holds dear, and she is willing to do whatever it takes to protect it. But can love truly survive when one person is hiding a dark secret? Mariah's inability to confess to Tessa is not just about guilt, it's about her deep fear of losing Tessa's love and trust.